Frank, might as well go ahead and start so we can get those.
That's right.
Get it over with.
Sooner started, sooner finished.
Yeah. Okay, I think Scott's got it going.
We're good.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Glad to see y'all here, and I'm filling in for Tim today. You'll be listening to him at the 11 o'clock worship service. Our lesson today is on the creation of God. And I never really thought too much about the creation except that it was in Genesis. But the creation is mentioned throughout the Bible. And our lesson today is from Psalms 104. And it appeals over and over about the creation that our great Creator did for us. It says the writer of the Psalms, the lesson that I'm using, was by David Welch. And he says that the writer of Psalms stirs his own soul to bless the Lord when you observe creation. He begins and ends with the song called to bless the Lord and to praise his name. Some Bible commentators suggest that the Psalms follows a pattern similar to the 6 days of creation that we find in Genesis. Verses 1 through 6 talks about the light and the sky, which came about on day 1 and 2. Verses 7 through 18 is day 3, the separation of the water and the land and the green plants. Verses 19 through 23 talk about the sun and moon as guardians over the earth, which was on day 4. Day 5 and 6, from verses 24 through 30, life on the land and the sea. That was days 5 and 6. And then, of course, on the 7th day, verses 31 through 35, was about the day of rest. And I guess that's what we consider Sunday as our day of rest. But this Psalms not only focuses on God, who is the original creator, but it also focuses on how he sustained the creation. God established the earth on its foundations so that it will not teeter or totter forever. And this is verses 5 through 9. You covered it with the deep as with a garment. The waters were standing above the mountains. At your rebuke, they fled. At the sound of your thunder, they hurried away. The mountains rose up, the valleys sank down to the place which you established for them to be. You set a boundary that they may not pass over, so that they will not return to cover the earth. So when we think about the earth, we know that we have, as a school teacher, you got to have a globe for show and tell.
Visual aids.
Yeah, visual aids. And of course, we know. Can you imagine that all of this earth being covered with water? No, till God rebuked the land to come above the waters, and then He left the waters and all like He wanted, not like we wanted them. Thank God for that. Isn't it the truth? Because we'd have made a big mistake.
Actually, that kind of makes sense because most of the world is covered with water. Now,
It's still more water than land.
So if you took all the land, you made it flat so you didn't have mountains sticking up, it would be all underwater. Because underwater there are things like upside down mountains underwater, huge caverns. There's a lot of water.
And this mentions it later on about the waters, the vast waters that are underneath the earth.
And if the tectonic plates move and push Earth up, that's what you get, what you end up with.
But God hung this earth on a 23.5 degrees and a certain distance from the sun. Now, we don't know why the earth is tilted on a 23.5. But if you took this earth and you set it straight, think about these poor people up north.
Or at the equator.
Yeah. They burn up down here and freeze to death up here.
There'll be a season.
And no seasons, no anything. So, some astronomers say that the planet kind of like Mars hit the earth and made it tilt. And then some of us say that God tilted the earth like he wanted. He knew what he was doing.
Thank God
When
he knew.
Yes, when he created the earth, he knew what he was doing there.
He may have sent Mars to hit it, but he hit it like he wanted.
I just feel like he established it like he wanted it. And then maybe after he separated the earth and the water, he may have tilted it so that it would stay like he wanted it.
Yeah.
And anyway, at the beginning, God wrapped the earth, as I said, in water, and the whole continent, the whole world was covered with water until he demanded for the dry land. Then God sent forth springs in the valleys. This is from verses 10 through 13. They flow between the mountains. Beside them the birds of the heavens dwell. They lift up their voices among the branches. He waters the mountains from his upper chambers. The earth is satisfied with the fruit of his works. So see, the mountains don't have the water. He had to send it from his upper chambers. He brings the water down to the mountains. So in this day, he gave us energy, wind, the earth, water, and nothing lives without light. Nothing lives without water. God not only provides streams, rivers, and lakes, but also a whole underground system that's 100 times larger than the rivers and lakes that we can see. And God's work is over which man has no control. And I thought about it. We are blessed, those of us that live in the country, because we have good water from wells or springs. And if we didn't have water in the ground, we couldn't have this. So I'm glad God put some water on there for me to have my good well water, because I sure do love my well water. In verses 14 and 15, he caused the grass to grow for the cattle and vegetation for the labor of man, so that he may bring forth food from the earth, and wine which makes man's heart glad. And I thought about all these, Bibaloo or Bubble, whatever they had in all these people that drink all this beer. I thought, God makes the heart glad, so that he may make his face glisten with oil, and food which sustains man's heart. And we know that grass is more than just for the landscape or for the prettiness, and vegetation for labor for the man, because he put the grass there. It feeds the animals. And the lady that has cows on our land, John is trying to get her to expand a little bit to another pasture area so he won't have to mow, let the cows mow. But we can find grass in all climates around the world. The sheer variety of edible plants is mind-boggling. And if you ever sit down and look at a seed catalog, you will know how many varieties of cucumbers, tomatoes, all this stuff. So we just really have a variety of vegetation and food that we can eat, but we don't. And I'm so tempted when that kudzu puts out to pick me some kudzu leaves and cook it like turnip salad just to see what it tastes like. It's not poisonous, so why can't we eat it?
Might too.
Some people do.
They do. You can find recipes for it. And the
poke salad.
Poke salad. Now that stinks so bad.
No, that's delicious.
I have heard it was. I haven't tried it.
It's delicious.
And dandelion salad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We know about pigweed. That's a weed we hate. And one of the Mexicans that I know told me that in Mexico they pick it and cook it, and they love it.
It's a delicacy.
Pigweed salad.
Yeah.
Like Trump salad. Pigweed. Red root pigweed that we can't stand and fight.
Oh yeah,
Year after year, they love it.
I know when Daddy was living, he had cows. He made us go through and put up all the dandelions so that it wouldn't make the milk smell and taste. And boy, if he could see it now, he'd say, Don Rose, get out there with a stick and get that stuff pulled up, because it is really taking over.
It's good for us, but bad for the cow.
Yes.
Bad for the milk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And makes the butter taste terrible too.
Yeah, ain't nothing worse than having, I used to make mom and dad so mad, they'd pour out a whole bunch of milk, because it wasn't no good.
Right. But God supplied us with plants that have nutritional value and medical value. And you think about some of the plants that I say the Indians, that's more my mentality to think about how they come up with medicine that's made from plants. And we think, there ain't no medicine any good unless we go to the drugstore and pick it up.
My father used to go fishing and come home with a pockets full of all kinds of roots that he used for us for medicine.
Right. Mama used to make sassafras tea.
Yeah, we did too.
Mm-hmm. It was right good.
Yeah.
You put a little sugar in it. Then God gave us trees. It says the cedars of Lebanon which he planted, where the birds build their nest, and the stork whose home was in the fir tree. And I have a whole lot of birds at my house that I really love. Of course, we feed them with bird seed, but they go for the trees. And when I was laid up and sitting in my chair, I had it where I could see out the trees there and see all the cardinals was so pretty going back and forth into the pine trees and the green trees where you could really see them. So, and the high mountains are for the wild goats. The cliffs are refuge for the badgers. God made the moon for the seasons. The sun knows the place and knows its place and when to set. In other words, I can't say, okay, I want to go to bed early tonight. Son, you set at 6 o'clock. And somebody else said, I don't want to go to bed till 12 o'clock. You don't set till 12 o'clock. God sets the time. He tells the sun and the moon when to go and come.
He's in charge.
Yes. You appoint darkness and it becomes night. This is from 19 through 23. You appoint darkness and it becomes night, in which all the beasts of the forest prowl. If you ever look out at night, you'll notice animals prowling at night that you don't see in the daytime. The young lions roar after their prey and seek their food from God. When the sun rises, they withdraw and lie back down in their dens. Man goes forth to his work and to his labor until evening. Well, this new industries we have now have changed that. A lot of people have to work at night instead of in the daytime. But God gave us light, seasons, time, rest, warmth, growth, energy, and he even gave us the tides. And we don't realize how important the tides are to us, but they are very important. Then God gave us the sea. And from verse 24 and 26, O Lord, how many are your works? In wisdom you have made them all. The earth is full of your possessions. There is the sea, great and broad, in which are swarms without number. But it's getting fewer and fewer paying trail. I can't find them. Animals both small and great. There are ships that move along the waters, which you have formed, and sports in it. So then God gives us life. They all wait for you to give them their food in due season. This is from 27 through 30. You give to them, they gather it up. You open your hand, they're satisfied with good. You hide your face, they're dismayed. You take away their spirit, they expire and return to their dust. You send forth your spirit, they are created, and you renew the face of the ground. So we need to know that God blessed us with life. And as the writer of Psalms wrote, the psalmist ended his song with a final stirring of his soul to bless the Lord. Bless the Lord, O my soul. Praise the Lord, O my Lord. You are very great. And I don't think we could say anything except that God is great. Because I always said, looked at people that didn't believe in God. Man can't make that pine tree growing up there.
No.
God created. And we've got to accept that fact. read you a little story here. Human discovery, and this is how we take care of God's creation. On February the 7th, 2006, National Geographic News reported a team of conservationists has spent nearly a month in the Foja Mountains on the western side of New Guinea, the part belonging to Indonesia. Am I pronouncing that right, Scott? F-O-J-A. It's not the Fuji, because they don't have the U in it. Okay? There was not a single trail, no sign of civilization, nearly 2 million acres of old-growth tropical forest. No sign of any local communities had ever been there.
Wow.
You think of it, this vast earth that we have, and there are still places man has not been and ruined it.
I can't imagine.
There was one scientist is quoted to have said, "It's as close to the Garden of Eden as you'll ever get." Bruce Beeler said, "It really was like crossing some sort of a time warp into a place where people hadn't been. We were like kids in a candy store. Everywhere we looked, we saw amazing things we had never seen before. They saw a trove of animals never before documented, from a new species of honey-eater bird to more than 20 new species of frogs. One of the most amazing discoveries was the golden-mantled tree kangaroo, which was previously thought to be hunted to extinction." The implication here is that humans leave a footprint wherever we go. Human discovery is not necessarily all good. God blessed Adam and Eve and told them, "Multiply and fill the earth and subdue it." Have we multiplied and filled the earth? And this was quite interesting that I thought about this. There are now 6 billion people inhabiting Earth. 6 billion. 1.2 billion live in China. 960 million people live in India. We learned that there are now 300 million people living in the United States. The population of the United States of America has grown from 200 million to 300 million in the last 39 years. We are now the third country in the world to top 300 million people, joining China and India.
How long ago was that written?
I don't know. He doesn't quote. But I know
it's a little bit higher now across the board.
I think so too. Well, yeah.
Closer to 8 billion.
Right. It's
400
it was previously before 2006. But Stephen Turner, professor of agricultural economics from Mississippi State University, cites that it is a good thing because retiring Americans need more people to support the workforce to sustain our Social Security system.
Right.
So we're glad that they are increasing. At least they're putting money back in Social Security. We might draw while we're still living. The U.S. Census Bureau reported that no other country is expected to reach 300 million people in the next 30 years. However, they estimated that the United States will reach 400 million by 2043. What do you say, Scott? We're already close to that.
I think it's 360, 380 now.
All right, a driving force of the population is the birth of a baby every 14 seconds and the surging immigration. And you think about in the last 10, 15, 20 years, how many immigrants have really entered the United States to up our population.
Especially the last year and a half.
Yeah, and said on the other end of the spectrum, and I don't have much to believe this, the Christian Science Monitor reported in 2002 that Russia's population of 144 million is expected to shrink by 1/2 in the next 50 years. The average Russian male can live, or is expected to live, to the ripe old age of 59. So think about what we live through over here and our death rate.
Most of Europe is undergoing population collapse.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and we are too. You know, back in the old days, you'd have a farm, 6 kids to help run the farm. Nowadays, you have 1, 2, maybe children.
Right.
And so the native population is shrinking, but the immigration is keeping the numbers steady.
Right. We're coming from somewhere else. The pending crisis is reportedly due for the men's dying so young is infertility, poverty, substance abuse, disease, stress, and zero immigration policy. And I'd say, you know, to keep coming into America, where we're going to put them, you know, we got a lot of space we could put more people in. We can also grow and do more. So have we subdued the earth? We enjoy the earth every day. We get to enjoy the best of the best in agricultural production. But after a rather rocky time in the 30s, we finally learned the lesson of conservation of the land and management. We're capable of producing more than we can consume, and we really could produce enough to feed the world. Mm-hmm. And on the news this morning, they were talking about how farmers are being cyber attacked. And I thought, well, now when we come along and we farm, couldn't be no cyber attack. But we didn't have nothing that worked that they could work. We had to get it done by ourselves and work. We've learned that if we do not protect and manage the land, the water, and the air, that we are abusing what God has trusted to us. What did Adam mean when he blessed Adam and Eve and told them to multiply and fill the earth and subdue it? Well, God's blessing was that we can enjoy and use the resources that he has given us. We are to take care of the creation as God himself would take care of it. The world and all the people belong to God, not to man, but to God. We live in a world that was created and formed by God. Psalms 104:24 says, O Lord, what a variety of things you have made. In wisdom you have made them all. The earth is full of your creatures. So if we stand on the rim of the Grand Canyon, has anybody ever been to the Grand Canyon?
A few times.
Okay. So you'll know what I'm talking about. The gaze at the expanse that you will see when you look down the Grand Canyon, you see granite that is 2 billion years old. Limestone that is 500 million years old. Sandstone that is 300 million years old. It is an extraordinary place of enormous scale and beauty. So I guess when you look down in there, it's with awe that you look at it. And of course, you may not think about it at the time when you're looking down at it. Just the magnificence of God's beauty. Unlike you, Tim, that tonsil back there is dry.
Yeah.
Well, have you ever seen how they'll cut something open across and so you can see what's inside it? The Grand Canyon's like that. It's like a cross section of the earth that's been cut away by water. Mm-hmm. You can see all the layers.
I know in teaching we have rocks and we get geo rocks, which you could take your hammer and crack and see the inside of that rock. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing. And
all them layers of soil and rock, we stood there and just looked.
Right.
We walk around over here, but layers of rock, some of it's fine, some of it looked hard.
Must be mind-boggling.
But it increased my small mental ability.
You knew man didn't do it, didn't you? Well, think about in our oceans, the fish and all that we have in it, But how many of you have ever seen a whale? Ever seen a real whale? Okay, I haven't, and I always wanted to go down to is it SeaWorld in Florida to see a whale. But this was mind-boggling to me that see a mammal that is longer than 3 dump trucks. Now this kind of put it in perspective so you can kind of visualize. And in the northern hemisphere, they're 80 feet. In the southern hemisphere, they are 90 feet. Heavier than 110 Honda Civics, which is equal to about 100 tons. Females can reach 150 tons. And has a heart, this was mind-boggling to me, the size of a Volkswagen Beetle. Wow. And I see that little Volkswagen go by my house every morning going to work. And as I was studying this and reading, I thought, that whale's heart as big as that car going down the road there. The blue whale feeds on 40 tons of krill a day, which is about 3 million calories. And you know they don't want us to eat hardly 100 calories a way to keep cutting down on the diet. But anyway, it is the largest living thing on the planet. And when it sprays its water up, when it comes up and sprays, it can go as high as a telephone or light pole. Wow. So I just think it would be amazing to look at this creature that God created. God made the moon to mark the seasons, and the sun, as I said, knows when to set. We live in a universe that has been arranged and ordered by God, not by man, but years and years ago, God made his plan. And if you take a moment, just sit down and read all of Psalms 104, you'll have the sense of God's ongoing activity in providing for all of the creatures and creation. God sends rain to grow grass to feed the cattle and food from the earth, and wine to gladden our hearts, and bread to give us strength, according to verses 13 and 15. So we do not have to go far or think long to experience the wonder of God and God's creation. So when you think back, sometimes you see something and you might look at it and think, well, I know man didn't do this. God is a great creator. And why did he put us here? To look after his creation, to take care of his creation, to, as he told Adam and Eve, to multiply. Well, he didn't multiply through me, but anyway, somebody else had mine. So, we're not all due to do the same thing. We're all put here for a purpose. We have something that God wants us to do, and that's what we have to do, is to go out and just ask God, what can I do, Lord? What can I do? Thank you. That's it.
Good lesson, Domino.
Thank
We
you.
might let you